want to be the best, simple and plain. That's why I play the game. To be the best, you have to win. And that's what drives me.
He's the best player in the game. It's just that simple.
Yo, what's going on, good people? We back with another vid. Need y'all to like, share, and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and spam that comment section. So we got the audio from the dispatch from the American Eagle Black Hawk collision. Pray for the peoples out there in Washington right now. A lot of people still searching for their loved ones, but we're going to get into this audio.
ERJ helicopter crash in the Potomac River.
Advised there's a helicopter in the water, been found by boats retrieving injured. They're looking for the aircraft at this moment.
It's crazy, man. Pray for everybody, families and the loved ones.
How did something like this happen in 2025?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think the focus immediately is going to be on.
Wait a minute. They said the plane broke into two pieces. So the plane, so you got the ass of the plane, the nose of the plane. I can only imagine the fear that them people was going through.
Air traffic control. Were they watching both of these aircraft? Did they see anything out of the ordinary? Did the pilots notice each other? Were they operating on the same radio channel? They should have been. There's an awful lot here that we still don't have the details on, and they're going to be trying to get more details going forward. I will tell you that this is very busy airspace. It's not as busy as New York in that you don't have so many commercial aircraft coming in and out, but you've got an awful lot of military helicopters going in and out of that air base right across the river.
And what I keep saying is they are trained and they know not to go nowhere near where the other planes are landing or taking off. They know that. They trained for that. So who didn't do their job correctly? What went wrong out there?
The Joint Base Anacostia. They run an awful lot of Marine One for the president and other diplomatic missions in and out of that Marine base right across the river. You've got Coast Guard operations, and then, of course, you've got the civil aviation, the commercial aviation. And planes are not allowed to fly over Washington, D.C. That really creates this tunnel effect, I should say, channeling air traffic in a very close corridor into Reagan Airport. You're either going to come in on runway 1 or runway 33. And runway 1 is, in fact, the busiest airport in America. You talked about the river water and how cold it's been here. 35 degrees is the temperature in that water, and it's now roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes since this crash.
And just imagine how many people that still haven't been accounted for, haven't been found or rescued. Man, pray for these people, man, they family. Pray for these people and they family.
There is great concern about the survivability of those passengers that are in the water. Our local affiliate, WRC, reporting that their law enforcement and emergency sources are reporting that the plane broke into two pieces. It's in roughly 7 feet of water. Divers are in the water as well. That the helicopter itself is upside down in the water. It's very unstable, and divers are unable to get into that chopper. That chopper, we're told, came actually from Fort Belvoir, which is an Army base about 20 minutes or so drive south of Reagan National Airport, maybe a little bit further, but it's to the south, underscoring all of the military air operations in and around D.C. on a typical day. And so to have this happen at night when things are starting to wind down at Reagan National, in the evenings at Reagan National Airport, it can be a ghost airport with just the last few planes coming in or coming out. And it would appear this is one of the last few planes of the day coming in to land at Reagan Airport when this tragedy happened.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news.
That's crazy.
And you were driving, you see this thing happen. What did it look like to you?
I saw only about 2 seconds of it, but I believe that what I saw was the collision. So I was headed south, going straight. The airport was off to my left. I was looking at the line of planes coming in because that highway lines up almost exactly with the line of planes coming in to land. It's just off to the right a little bit. So I was driving home, and I always watched that line of planes coming in. I saw how evenly spaced apart they were, and I thought there might be one right off to my left, right about to land. It looked like the spacing was right, so I looked off, and initially I saw the plane, and it looked fine, normal. It was right about to head over land, maybe 120 feet above the water. It looked like a fairly, a small end but normal sized passenger jet, and it looked normal. It was level. So I looked back at the road, and then I looked back again just to see if I could maybe see it land.
How many times y'all be driving in a car and y'all see a plane when y'all look up and y'all be wondering, like, is that too far from the ground? Is it close to me? Like, and he actually noticed it and he was right about it.
And this was 3 seconds later, and at that point it was banked all the way to the right. I would say maybe past the right, past 90 degrees. I could see the underside of it. It was lit up a very bright yellow, and there was a stream of sparks underneath it. It looked like a Roman candle, if you've ever held one of those on the 4th of July, but it was much, much bigger than that. It was high off the ground. I didn't see anything beyond that. I didn't see any helicopter. It's a very, very dark night out tonight, so anything that's not illuminated, you can't really see. So I didn't see the other aircraft, but I saw the plane banking at an angle that a plane shouldn't bank, and I saw sparks flying.
Wow. That drive that so many Washingtonians do, I've driven that many times myself. And those planes, as you said, it's extremely.
And just imagine the other people that seen and witnessed this. Go to TikTok right now, and you got a lot of people uploading their videos that witnessed this plane crash with this helicopter. I promise you. He wasn't the only one.
To see tons and tons of aircraft landing all the time. So you see this happening. You see the sparks flying. What happened next? What did you do next?
So I was turning my head to the left and I was driving, right? So I looked at this for, it couldn't have been more than 2 seconds, and then I needed to look back at the road.
All he could do was call 911.
And then I looked back again. I wondered if I was going to see an explosion, a crash into the ground. I was trying to decide if I should call 911. This was all happening very, very quickly. So I wasn't thinking entirely rationally. But I turned back and I didn't see anything. I didn't see a plane hit the ground. I didn't see flames or an explosion or smoke. I didn't see emergency lights. It was so brief what I saw that I actually wondered for a moment if I had hallucinated it some way. And I kept driving, and just a few seconds later, I was too far along to be able to turn my head back and see the airport anymore. So I looped back around. I U-turned on the highway to go back and see if I could see anything. And when I turned back north and drove by the same point, I still didn't see anything. No flames, no crash, no nothing.
All right, Ari Shulman, thank you very much for joining us. And honestly, I'm so sorry that you actually.
Just to witness something like that, when you only see stuff like that happen in movies, just to witness stuff like that in real life. That's why I said 2025 is about to show us things that we never seen before. Starting with Trump being the president with a felony. What are we? Is we in a living in a real lifetime right now? Like, what's really going on out here?
This happened. I want to go now to Pete Muntean. Pete, you've got some breaking news for us.
We just had this in from American Airlines. Spokesperson Sarah Jantz tells me on board this flight, American Airlines flight 5342, there were 60 passengers on board and 4 crew. This was not a small airplane. This was a regional jet, a flight flying from Wichita, Kansas into Reagan National Airport.
So it was a jet, okay,
on the Virginia side.
Okay.
So there were many people on board, very likely that this was a full flight. A CRJ 700 like this can seat between 60 and 70 people, depending on the configuration, depending on what the airline orders. Right now, there is a very frantic search in the Potomac River right now. And Noah Gray of DC Fire tells me they have every resource out there that they possibly can, every resource working as hard as they can to do what they can. There are several helicopters in the air right now, not only from Prince George's County, but also from Metropolitan Police Department in the District of Columbia. And you can see all of the boats and all of the response They're on the very dark Potomac River right now, water temperature about 42 degrees. Hypothermia sets in only minutes. It is very clear now that this happened as a mid-air collision involving a Black Hawk helicopter from the United States Army and this regional jet operated by PSA Airlines on behalf of American Airlines. That flight was coming in from the south, initially lined up for Reagan National Airport runway 1, that's to the north, and then swung out to the east, apparently lining up with runway 33 there at Reagan National Airport, the slightly shorter runway used by slightly smaller planes. But make no mistake, this was a small airplane, and the new reporting we have from American Airlines, 60 people on board this plane and 4 crew. This is an area, a slice of airspace that is heavily congested, not only with planes taking off and landing from Reagan National Airport, climbing and descending all of the time, but also heavily congested with helicopters from the United States government, the military, and local police departments. There are helicopter routes that crisscross through the airspace that essentially coexist with the airliners that are coming into land.
And it goes back to what I keep saying. They are trained to stay away from those designated zones. They can't go in those designated areas. They are known to not fly in those areas. So who messed up? Somebody got to take accountability for this. We can't keep trying to make excuses. Somebody got to take accountability for this, because this is tragic. 40 degrees, the water, man, is 40 degrees, and it's already been 2 hours. Come on, man. This is tragic. It's something like out of a movie.
I'm a former commercial airline pilot, aerospace journalist, and have actually flown as a regional airline pilot in the past, in and out of this airport numerous times.
Can you tell me your thoughts about the facts as we know them right now, especially with your knowledge of being a pilot? The fact that this mid-air collision happened over the Potomac, which was frozen in parts, at 375 feet, and I don't have the statistic right in front of me, but the speed was something like 138, I think, miles an hour. Did that sound right, Kathleen?
Yes, that's correct. Just under 400 feet, approximately 140 miles an hour. So as a pilot, what this would be like is you're coming into land at night. They were landing to the northwest, I believe, on runway 33. Winds were light, weather quite fair. And at that point, you're really mostly focused.
Now, she's saying the winds was light. The other news reporter asked that man, would it have been because of the wind and the turbulence to the,
on the landing. You're not so much in a big looking for traffic mode, because you've got air traffic control, you're on radar, you have a technology called ADS-B that is broadcasting out to other aircraft and to ATC what's your altitude, your speed, your location. So you'd pretty much be focused on that landing. Now, that airport is a little bit in a sea of lights, but you're correct. At that time, they were right over the Potomac. What is ironic is that just about this time, I believe it was January of 1982, there was a very famous fatal crash of a Boeing 737 Air Florida that was actually taking off in DC during a blizzard. Did not get enough altitude due to snow and ice contamination on the wing, hit a bridge, and then went into the Potomac. And that's the last major fatal crash there. This aircraft is a regional jet, and previous decades, regional aircraft tended to be small propeller aircraft that maybe held, up to 24 people. Some models of these CRJs can hold over 70 or 80. And so these are larger aircraft now. The regional airlines, which used to have a fairly poor safety record compared to the major airlines, have really improved that record over the last decade. And they've had much better pilot training, much better aircraft, improved simulator training, improved crew coordination. So this aircraft itself was operated, I believe, by a company called PSA, but it flew under American Airlines. And many of these regional carriers fly for one or sometimes multiple major airlines. Sometimes they are owned by the major airline, sometimes they are completely independent. And often these airlines is used as what we call feeders. Pilots will train here, and then often many of the pilots aspire then to go to the major airlines.
So I have to ask you something, since you brought up the 1982 Potomac crash. I watched that.
Oh, it's 82.
I was riveted to that coverage. I was 14 years old. The blizzard was so mighty. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm from Winnipeg, Canada. I know blizzards. I remember thinking at the time, they'll never find anyone. It was, the weather was so horrendous the night that Air Florida Flight 90 crashed into the Potomac. 78 people were killed on the plane. 4 people were killed on the bridge. That's not the case tonight, Captain Bangs. And I wonder, when I heard that the Sikorsky Black Hawk typically...
Now, this is the 1982 situation.
It was surreal. A plane had crashed into the Potomac River, a 737. But what was more surreal was the shattered ice, no plane, just debris, and people, survivors, 5 of them, brought to this awful...
Now, see, this is light outside. You can see them people crash when it's dark. You can't see a damn thing.
by a series of tragic killings. January 13th, 1982, it had been snowing all day. National Airport had to be closed for more than an hour to clean the runway. Air Florida Flight 90 was heading to Tampa. It was de-iced, but it sat for almost an hour, snow and ice building on the wings. The pilot, Larry Wheaton, had never flown in snow. He takes off without inspecting his plane. As it rolls down the runway, the gauges tell them something is terribly wrong. His co-pilot, Roger Pettit, wants to abort. The pilot continues.
What type of pilot is this that don't check the plane and inspect the plane before he take off? And then this nigga never flew in that type of weather? Tell you everything right there. Inexperience.
At liftoff, the plane begins to shake violently.
I don't think I'll ever forget the vibration of the aircraft.
Air Florida Flight 90 hits the 14th Street Bridge, smashing cars and killing 4 people. It then plunges headfirst into the icy Potomac.
People were screaming, and then it got very quiet.
The tail section breaks off, giving 5 people a chance to escape. But now they're in the water. The crash didn't kill them. The cold could.
Cold is cold, and you start freezing pretty quick.
Roger Olean, a sheet worker at St. Elizabeth's Hospital at the time, sees the victims and he races to the shore. Tying a rope around his waist, he jumps into the river and tries to swim to them.
Thought, well, if they can see somebody coming out, maybe they can hold on a little longer.
The cold defeats him.
But the thing is that make these two similar, the water is cold as shit. And they say some parts of the river right now where the plane just crashed is frozen. And you can clearly see right here that this is frozen.
Finally, the Park Police helicopter Eagle One arrives with Don Usher and Gene Windsor inside. And an amazing rescue begins, all the more incredible because 30 years ago, all they had was a rope.
We were in the Stone Age of rescue equipment, yes.
But Usher was a chopper pilot in Vietnam. He knew how to...
And that's sad. But yeah, as more updates come, I will be bringing y'all them updates. I need y'all to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Okay.